without Dragon Ball, I don't know if those types of manga animes would have been what it is today.
Really? One Piece is not up there?
I haven't finished One Piece. I'm
But up to what you read, you still wouldn't put it in your top 5?
The most emotional I've ever been is like take One Piece for example. I have never cried or became sad over an inanimate object until I read One Piece. And
which scene?
You probably know the scene that I'm talking about. Have you ever cried over a boat before?
So the guy who recently passed away.
Toriyama Akira, the Dragon Ball creator.
Yeah, the Dragon Ball. I cannot say his name, but the Dragon Ball creator.
Yeah.
He was 64 when he passed?
68.
68. Mm-hmm. Brain aneurysm?
I'm not sure if he passed from a brain aneurysm. I just know he had a scheduled brain tumor surgery that he was supposed to have, but he died something of that complication. He was supposed to have it in February, but yeah, he passed away March 1st. We learned it about a week later, of course, because I guess the family wanted to do like a private funeral.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he passed away on the 1st, and then the news came out about it on the 8th. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty devastating news. I mean, he is one of the, in my opinion, the goats of the anime world.
Do you think he laid the foundation?
For current anime style and like fighting anime or that kind of like genre, like Naruto or One Piece or the big three. They call it the Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach, right? It's the big
Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach.
Yeah. So without Dragon Ball, I don't know if those types of manga animes would have been what it is today.
So he did Dragon Ball, but his very first popular work was Dr.
Slump.
Dr. Slump
came out in 81 or 80, around that time.
So I never seen Dr. Slump.
You seen Dragon Ball?
I've seen Dragon Ball. I've seen the very first featured film where Goku was a kid. He's trying to collect all 12 balls, and in the end, he uses his wish to revive one of his friends. That was the farthest I've seen. This was when he still had a tail. And later, Dragon Ball evolved to the more crazy ones where you have Goten, you have Majin Buu, Frieza, you have the gods up there. So, but I stopped watching Dragon Ball around the Majin Buu arc because...
I mean, that's pretty much the end of Dragon Ball Z. So it goes Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT. Then what it is now is Dragon Ball Super, which is in the midst of it, which I don't know how it's going to complete now since he passed away.
And he was involved in all of it?
No, he was not involved in Dragon Ball GT. So Dragon Ball GT is non-canon. Everything else is canon. So Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super is canon. Dragon Ball GT was actually drawn or created by different artists with the permission of Akira Toriyama, of course, because how else you gonna make money on the non-IP kind of things.
Well, that's true too, but he would probably make money off of his previous licensing work. I would assume, right?
Yeah.
And so my guess is, I wonder if he got tired of making Dragon Ball Z.
Well, he has a lot of other work as well. So besides Dragon Ball, he was heavily involved in video game. So Dragon Quest, I don't know if you know.
I know Dragon Quest. Yeah.
So yeah, all the animation or the character design, the world, the monster design, all that is done by him. So even Dragon Quest is going to take a hit after his passing because now all the character designs.
Dragon Quest was originally a video game that adapted into an anime, or was it the other way?
So it was originally a video game. There is a manga anime that came out that's called Dragon Quest Dai's Grand Adventure. It's actually one of my favorite animes that came out, but yeah, it was a video game first. But I mean, because of his style, it made Dragon Quest what it is today too.
I see. I've seen 1 or 2 episodes of Dragon Quest. You could definitely tell it's a different era.
Yeah, I mean, it came out, actually it was competing with Dragon Ball at the time. It was both the late 80s anime.
But Dragon Quest, he did not create it, right? He just helped it.
He didn't do anything with the anime version. He helped designed the video game aspect.
Oh, I see.
But he's also done other video games like Chrono Trigger. I don't know if you've heard of that game.
No, I'm not familiar with
Chrono
that.
Trigger was also a Square Enix game back in the early 90s, mid 90s, but it used to be called the Dream Team because it was Squaresoft back in its day, Enix back in its day, and then Toriyama Akira was they call that the Dream Team because those are the big two video game companies, and then Toriyama Akira was like the big anime, character design at the time.
Do you have a preferred game out of those three?
Out of Dragon Quest,
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger,
Yeah.
and what's the other one, like Final Fantasy or something?
Just in general, like in that, because you're more familiar with games than I am.
Yeah.
Do you have a preferred game? Like, do you have a particular?
I like Dragon Quest a lot. Dragon Quest is a very good series. I mean, it is probably the rival to Final Fantasy during its era. That's why Squaresoft absorbed NX because they didn't want to compete with them anymore. I'm sure they wanted to.
I'm not surprised. Yeah,
just take them under the wing and make a profit out of it. So
it's it's interesting because whenever I see like all these crazy manga, because now there's like a whole bunch.
Yeah.
You have One Piece has been running for a long time.
Now,
yeah. Demon Slayer has been really popular. One Punch Man. Oh, there's so many nowadays.
Yeah.
Spy X Family. There is Chainsaw Man. Just trying to think of all, and even the Korean webtoons are now catching up in popularity.
Yeah.
So the Korean ones that's been trending lately is Solo Leveling.
Never heard of that one.
Fairly recent. The webtoon has been out for quite a number of years, but Solo Leveling is the more recent adaptation that you see on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
You've seen Tower of God, but it's come to the point where now even in the United States, like anime is more popular because when I was growing up, it was sort of like a niche.
It was nerd.
Yeah.
It was nerdy.
It wasn't popular what it is today.
Yeah. Definitely when I first came to the States when I was a kid back in 94, I think is when I came. And I moved to Texas and there was nothing comparable. It was just cartoons at the time. So actually
when I was growing up, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! And
you're what, 10 years
Digimon.
Or 7 years? Yeah.
Yeah. So this was when I was maybe early 2000, like 2002, 2003. That's when those series were running on
Toonami or something, Cartoon Network.
Cartoon Network or WBA or
actually Pokemon was like mainstream. I think when it was coming out, it was like on not CBS, but those kind of mainstream channels.
Well, it used to be Pokemon and the trading cards.
Yeah.
And then Yu-Gi-Oh took over.
Oh yeah.
And then Yu-Gi-Oh was very what's the word I'm looking for? It was popular and then it got kind of all squirrely and weird.
Well, Yu-Gi-Oh, it's funny. It didn't start off as what Yu-Gi-Oh is, right? It's a card game where you battle.
Well, the manga is different.
Yeah, the manga started off with it's called the dark arts games or whatever. So,
no, it's and
it was very dark.
When people watch Yu-Gi-Oh, they think it's for kids.
Yeah.
But when you read the manga, the dude had some issue.
Well, so the first 5 or 6 volumes so Yu-Gi-Oh became Yu-Gi-Oh today because somewhere along the lines of doing these dark arts games, they did a Yu-Gi-Oh one, and that became so popular that the rest of the series was just the Yu-Gi-Oh game. But the first 10 games that was introduced, it was like some dark arts game that if you lost in the game, you died in real life too.
Yeah.
And
it was dark. And he was, I'm not saying the guy was sadistic, but he definitely had some tendencies.
There's a lot of imagination with the Japanese mangas out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of mangas out there that if you read it, you're like, what is this guy taking?
Yeah. So one weird manga is 14 by, what's his name? Kenzo. It's some Japanese name. Okay. But if you just Google 14 and the premise of it, I won't spoil it for the viewers, right. But I always say that whoever wrote 14, that guy was on drugs because you have to be on drugs to make that kind of manga. Like,
what is you're not going to spoil it, but
I'm not going to spoil it, but the general premise is just a high level is the world is in a semi-apocalyptic settings or it's going to that. And the scientist is in charge of making mass-produced food or something of that nature. Somehow one of the food becomes sentient and becomes like a chicken scientist or chicken humanoid scientist.
Okay.
And they go through a series of events, stories that lead to a weird ending. And I always say that manga is, Japanese people have very creative like ideas, but this one is some next level. Like it's one of those manga where you read it, it's like, I want whatever he was taking because he was on that good shit.
Yeah.
You know, and I have like a list of animes where I like weird things. Like I like horror stuff.
Okay.
Junji Ito, he was a horror manga artist, or I should say creator, because he made the story and he drew as well. But, you know, I like his work. I like that kind of weird, non-traditional things, because nowadays you always see the typical, I don't even know what to call it, but someone is out there, they're trying to save. You have the typical story arc where you have the hero, they go on a journey, they come back stronger, and they're a different person.
A lot of cut and paste kind of storylines nowadays, just because they know what sold well and they're just trying to recreate that kind of stuff.
And I get it, it's a business, right?
But yeah, the stories like yours, where it's like very original, very out of this world. It's I tend to lean towards those as well.
I mean, like, you know, for me, my top mangas have always been One Piece. You know, I still believe One Piece.
A lot of people's there. Now with the live action that came out, I'm sure it garners.
I never watched the live action. I was kind of traumatized from. You ever read Death Note or watched Death Note?
Yes, or the live action one, right?
Yeah, there's a live action, there's the anime, and there's a manga.
The anime comic is very good with Death Note, but the live action was.
The Death Note was good. You know, there's very popular scenes like the potato chip. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I always say, like, you know, it takes a Japanese person to take a very mundane scene to make it very exciting.
Sure.
And I watched the live action and I was like,
it just didn't translate well there.
No, it was not the same. You definitely can tell that the creator or the director had free reign.
Yeah.
And so I'm afraid to watch One Piece. Now, I've heard good things about it, and I'm glad that people like it because this encourages them to read or watch the original, right?
And it'll fund, you know, give more budget, I guess, if they, I mean, it is already volume close to 100 now in the manga series. So how much longer can it really go? But it's like one of the longer mangas out there for sure.
There are like 1,020 chapters or something like that, but they're near the end supposedly. So I would guess maybe they have 300 or 400 more chapters to go.
Right.
But One Piece is my first one.
Okay.
Because I like the story building. I like how, now people can disagree with me on this, but there's not many filler arcs. I think every arc is relevant and every arc ties to the bigger picture.
Okay.
So that's number one. And the rest in no particular order, right? Very classic one is, you ever read School Rumble?
Yes.
I like School Rumble.
I like School Rumble.
Yeah, it's very light. It's very like, what's the word I'm looking for? It romanticizes your younger days.
It's a love comedy.
Yeah. And I think I read that 2 or 3 times.
Well, a lot of high school like romance mangas are very popular just because a lot of readers are in their high school ages. So they want to resonate, you know, with those kind of comics as well. Because
I noticed that's a very strong trend too, because it seems that high school settings sell well. Yeah. And I wonder if Japanese people just kind of look back with nostalgia, like those were the simpler times.
Probably.
Less stress.
I mean, even, you know, because I only went to Japan or school in Japan as a grade school. I never went there for high school. So I always fantasize or, you know, just imagine myself going to high school in Japan, and these kind of comics like give me that aspect or, you know, give me that sense of, you know, what school was like, you know, in Japan by reading it through those kind of, I'm not saying it's accurate or anything, but it's something I can relate more to than, you know, like an action, you know, like a fantasy kind of manga.
Do you think that, because, I mean, in some sense, I can kind of see where people might like the high school settings, but do people like to read those things, or it's copy and paste like what you said earlier, and people know that it sells well, they continue to do it, but if they introduce something different, people might not read about high school stuff as much?
It probably is more of the copy and paste, knowing that it does sell well.
So they just keep on pumping those kind of...
Well, because the way mangas become mangas in Japan is highly competitive, right? You have to get picked up by a publisher. whether it's the weekly and it's so many slots. There's only so many slots that these publishing books have.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
The most famous one is Jump Comics, right? Everybody knows Jump Comics. You know, One Piece is part of that. They have at any given time, their weekly one has maybe a dozen or so different comics at one time. So you have to get in that slot to become popular. So it's you have to create something that people will want to keep reading.
Because I mean, Jump Comics, they also did Boku no Hero.
Maybe I'm not familiar.
Did they do Attack on Titan?
No, that was KC Comics. I want to say KC or SC.
I know Jump Comics because I see them everywhere whenever I went to Japan.
Jump Comics is the most famous publisher out there.
So they're the biggest one.
It's the biggest, right? And then there's Shounen. There's Shounen, which is for young boys, and there's Seinen for like
the girls.
No, for the older, like not young adults kind of thing.
So Shounen is for like high school, middle school kids.
Correct.
Or specifically for the male demographic.
Yep. And then the Shoujo is for the girl demographic. So they have the boys and girls
okay.
stuff. So.
Okay. So Shoujo might be more like romance, comedy.
Like Sailor Moon. Like Sailor Moon is a Shoujo.
Got it. There was one, because I'm more familiar with manga than anime, but back in the days, I read The Orange Road to Love or Orange Road. It was old. It was like the 1960s or 1970s. It was way old. Back. But that kind of set the romance path for manga.
Sure.
And then I read it. I was like, oh, I can definitely see where they inspired more modern day work, right? So if you were to read it now, it's definitely dated. It has a lot of cliche things, and it has some of the more, it has a lot of things that you see in today's like modern romance stuff, but you can definitely see the influence it has on today's work.
Yeah.
And I always think that if you are, I don't know if this is true, but if you are in Jump Comics, I would assume that you kind of made it to the big leagues. Mm-hmm. And so you are probably under constant pressure to produce.
Well, especially if you're in the weekly one, because like I said, it's a weekly comic. So you have to produce a chapter every week. Otherwise, you will get bumped off. Like the next big thing will come in and take your place. So you have that pressure to not only be a good manga, but to deliver every week.
So there's no contract. Like you're going to make us 30 chapters on a weekly basis.
I mean, there may be, and if you're good enough, then even if you say you get sick, and you can't do work, they'll keep you around as long as you seem you're able to come back.
Like my boy Ichiro Oda, the creator of One Piece.
Has he taken a hiatus a little bit?
Yeah, he's taken hiatus here and there.
The most famous one I know is the Hunter x Hunter creator or the Yu Yu Hakusho creator.
They didn't finish Hunter x Hunter?
No. So after, I don't know if people know what Hunter x Hunter is, but after the Ant arc, I believe, which is volume 19, very early in the series, he took like a 3-4 year hiatus, and he's been sick on and off, and it's like he will pump out like one chapter every like 2 months now instead of one every week.
Yeah.
But he's still, because he's the manga is so beloved, as long as he's alive, Jump will never cut him. So they'll keep bringing him back until he finishes the series, because people.
Hunter x Hunter, that's the one with the little boy, right? Go something.
Yeah, Gon. Yeah.
And then I guess
it's Hunter x Hunter. People get mad when you call it Hunter x Hunter. Even though it has an X in it, it's still pronounced
Hunter. And that's the one with that strong guy that's a clown or a jester.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Like so I watched it or I read it. I only read it up to the point where Gon passes a trial and becomes, he gets the title of a hunter or something. But that's the farthest I read. I never really got into it.
So that's where it starts. Once he becomes a hunter, or he gets his hunter license, then more things open up in the series, because getting your hunter license is like knowing the real aspect of the world that you live in, or like the stuff that happens behind the scenes and all that.
Have you ever read?
So it's like becoming a politician in the United States, I guess.
Have you ever read Magi the Aladdin or something?
Mm-mm.
I don't know if it's new, but it's relatively newer. But there's dungeons in this world, and these dungeons have like treasures. It's one of those fantasy settings, and I guess Magi is like a little boy whose friends are with a genie or something. Think of like Aladdin, right? Essentially, it is Aladdin, and there's a magic genie in the lamp, and I guess it builds on that world. And so you kind of travel the world, you hunt dungeons, and this introduces character like Sinbad, and it's kind of like the Arabic world of like lore and fantasy and stuff. Like my memory is a little hazy on this, so don't kill me if I get it wrong, but it's sort of that thing. It kind of reminds me of that setting, the Hunter x Hunter. A little bit different, but I know too that the other manga that I was really into was Berserk.
Yeah.
And the creator had, I want to say, stomach issues, or
yeah, he passed away.
2 years
ago? Yes, last year, sometime recent, right?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 years ago. But
yeah.
he had a good, like, I'll never know, right? And I know some people have said there's going to be ghostwriters or someone's going to take up the work, but it's not the same as the original creator.
Yeah.
He probably had an idea. This is where I want the story to progress, and this is the ending. But we'll never know.
And that's the problem with mangas or animes. It's just, it takes a lifetime for some of these creators to write what they want to write. It's not like a book, a book, even like the long books, will take like somebody 5 years.
I don't know. I mean, some of them, they need to end.
They do.
Like Hajime no Ippo. that one has longer chapters.
I mean, that one should have ended. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but it should have ended when there was a stopping point. But for whatever reason,
there was a stopping point.
It came back. Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things like I'll read it. So I actually read up to, let me see, what's the most recent arc? Well, spoilers. So I'll put a spoiler tag right now. The most recent arc I read up to was when Hajime was becoming a trainer or a coach.
Right. So that's after the stopping point.
Yeah, because he had some kind of concussion issue and he tried to re-enter he did a debut match, but he lost the title or the match because supposedly he had a brain injury or whatnot. So he became a coach, and then at that point I kind of stopped because it was like it could have
lost the magic a little bit
earlier.
Yeah. I mean, Hajime no Ippo was a very good manga, or even an anime. I enjoyed the anime a lot, the way that they animate the fight scenes. I'm actually rewatching right now with my dad, actually. But
do you like fight animes?
Yeah, I like action.
Have you seen Baki?
Yes.
On Netflix?
Yes.
It's ridiculous, huh?
Of course.
But it's
I mean, it's entertaining.
If you suspend your disbelief, it's like there's Baki, there's Kengen Ashura. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Mm-mm.
It's the only thing I don't like about that one is they use 3D animation. I don't know if that's
the new
the term
or the new trend. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks weird. Like
CGI.
You could tell it's CGI.
Yeah.
It looks very unnerving. Like it's like, oh, it's there, but it's not the same.
It's mixing video game like graphics with anime, which is kind of like
it doesn't look clean.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks. Yeah. It's not.
It looks cost efficient.
Sure. Right. And it doesn't feel original. It doesn't feel like,
no, it doesn't.
The artistic touch has lost because it's all, you feel like it's all CG.
Yeah.
AI generated now at this point, because you have all your models and you tell your model to move this just like a video game. You just program it to move that way. You don't have to draw anything anymore.
But if you like Baki, you might like Kengen. They're both ridiculous. They both have, different martial arts styles and they're different fightings. And it's, I like it as to pass the time, but I would never recommend it. It's one of those mangas or animes where it's like, oh, that's cool. You could definitely tell like the guy had he's really into like martial arts. I think they're both different creators, but it's okay. But the other ones that I've been watching a lot or I recommend to people is Chainsaw Man.
I've seen one episode. That's a ridiculous one too, but you recommend it?
I recommend it. I like Chainsaw Man. I would read it. I haven't had the time, but I enjoyed watching it on Crunchyroll. And I think they said that the creator of Chainsaw Man he created another popular one called Firebird or Fire something. I forgot. Mm-hmm. But he's a well-known like manga creator. Like
sure.
He's not like
otherwise you can't get a IP like that to take off if you're not already known. Like it's very hard to sell that kind of concept and people just pick it up. Like if you come to a bookstore and you have the choice between Naruto or Chainsaw Man, like you're never gonna pick up Chainsaw Man like with a guy that's chainsaw.
I would think that in today's day and age, because social media is so prevalent, you will be easier to get recognized. But I guess the other argument I can say to myself is because it's such a low barrier of entries, other people can easily swarm the market and you can easily not get recognized at the same time. So I guess it can go both ways. But
so do you have a top 5 anime mangas that
One Piece, School Rumble. I like, I don't know if Sket Dance would be on that level. SKET Dance. Maybe. I like Berserk. I also, there's a lot. Yeah. I mean,
your top 5 is non-conventional. Like a lot of people, besides One Piece, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people will put like Naruto, One Piece, you know, Bleach.
Yeah, it's like, I read a little bit of Naruto. I read a little bit of Bleach. I didn't get into either one. I actually
never finished those because I never got that much into it.
Well, now you have Boruto, so you could catch up on that too. But there's also Fairy Tail. But Fairy Tail, I felt like they just copied from One Piece.
So it's very similar. So all these mangas start becoming more like, you know, each other kind of stuff. So most of my top 5 is, you know, from before all these mangas became popular. All right. Well, I guess I do have one that's new, sort of new age, which is Full Metal Alchemist.
I like Full Metal.
Yeah, that one. I just like the alchemy concept. You know.
Yeah.
The storytelling is really well done. You know, the animation, the fact that it takes in a non-Asian kind of environment, kind of stuff like that. Or the 7 deadly sins. You know, where it relates back to religion in some sort, because it is a sort of a religion kind of, you know, bent to it because of the all is one is all kind of concept, where you're like going through the door truth and all that.
Yeah. And where they do alchemy, like they combined.
Because alchemy, I think even in our world, it's not a concept that's not, you know, talked about. It's like it's almost like a lost, you know, art that used to exist back in the day, but
because it didn't work.
That, or I mean, what is it that, you know, making gold is an alchemy kind of like technique.
I mean, that's what people know them as, but
sure,
you know. But I like Full Metal Alchemist. I never read it. I never finished the manga either. Apparently, there's some fans don't like. From what I remember, there's 2 versions. That one is better than the other.
Because the anime came out while the manga was still ongoing, and the anime caught up to the manga, so they went with their own ending. Which I forget if it was a good ending or not, but. So there's Full Metal Alchemist and there's Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is the one that follows the manga. Yep. So I tend to only watch Brotherhood, but there is one, I like the original version for where they told one of the stories. I think his name was Hughes, where he gets killed by, I guess I don't want to spoil it, but he had a scene in there. I already said he got killed, so I guess I have to spoil it now. But he has a death scene that was done better in the original, and they kind of brushed it off in the Brotherhood just because they had to get to the whole story. But the original one, because the beginning part was still where they had to, like, you know, make more fillers out of it. They just made that part really well. So there are parts of the original one that I like over the Brotherhood. But if you want the full picture, you should watch Brotherhood. But I'm more of a, like you, I like reading manga more than watching anime.
Same.
So my number one manga/anime is Slam Dunk. I do not recommend watching it. I recommend reading it because... When
was Slam Dunk animated?
I want to say mid to late 90s. So not too long ago, but still...
It's definitely old. Well, in the animation world, I would say that's definitely on the older end.
Yeah. So a comparable anime out there today that I compared to Haikyuu or to Slam Dunk is Haikyuu. But Haikyuu is animated very well. Watching that one, I enjoy watching it. But the story is very similar between Slam Dunk and Haikyuu. But
you like Slam Dunk more?
Yeah. I mean...
Because Slam Dunk is basketball, right?
Basketball. I mean...
Is that the one with the wheelchair?
No, that's real. It's by the same creator or animator.
Yeah.
Slam Dunk takes place in a high school setting, but if I had to take a guess, this guy was a Chicago Bulls fan because the characters or the character design behind them feels very Chicago Bullish team. And I mean, he animates them as if they're NBA players. Like, there's no high school players that can play the way that they do in the manga, but...
Okay, I get it. Let me guess. They're like 6'7". Right. They're like 200 pounds of muscle.
Right. Dunking all the way everywhere. Yeah. You know?
Is it one of those sports anime where they have like insane moves that are not realistic?
No, it's not like Prince of Tennis or what's the other Kuroko's basketball. I don't know if you ever saw that one. So that one's like
where they could do a three-pointer from anywhere.
Yeah, he can like shoot from anywhere, can't miss. Or like a rebound.
It's like when they do where I forgot. It's like the Emperor's dribble or something where it makes people cross over. Yeah, I know.
Nothing silly like that. Okay. It's just pure. What I like about it is, so the main character, he's a guy that doesn't know anything about basketball.
Yep.
He comes into, and he falls, or he has a crush on a girl that,
of course,
she's super into, the basketball scene. So he wants to impress her. So he joins the basketball team. And at first he doesn't care about basketball at all. He just wants to impress her.
Yeah.
But throughout the series, he starts liking the game of basketball, and he has a rival that, the girl that he likes actually likes him on the team. So he's rivals with him, and he always wants to, beat him in any aspect. But then towards the end of the series, they finally, it's, for the team or,
sure,
they work together. And that progression that they go through the series is one of the best.
Okay. So it's finished.
It's finished. Yeah. Okay. It finished, but it finishes in a way that you don't expect for that type of manga.
How many volumes did they make?
I want to say 27.
That's not too long.
Yeah, but
that's not too long at all.
For sports anime, so I was never into sports manga or anime before reading this one. Like there was like popular ones like soccer ones or
there's that one
baseball.
Soccer one. It's called the Blue.
Tsubasa. Tsubasa is usually the most famous.
They have one. A soccer anime on Crunchyroll. Okay. It's one of those ridiculous ones. It's entertaining, but it's like. It's ridiculous.
Sure. No, I mean, most sports animes, mangas are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard for it to be realistic. But Slam Dunk was one of the ones that was more towards.
So Slam Dunk is your number one.
It's my number one. Then my number two, Dragon Ball, I guess, just because that's what I grew up with. It's what, in my opinion, brought anime over to the Western world.
Well, which Dragon Ball? Is it the very first Dragon Ball?
Dragon Ball Z is what became popular in the States, but I started with Dragon Ball when I lived in Japan.
So Dragon Ball is your number two?
The Dragon Ball universe, I guess. Dragon Ball Z, the whole series kind of thing.
But do you have any preference? Like, do you prefer Dragon Ball over Z over...
I think Dragon Ball Z is everyone's favorite. It's just what made it is what it is. The Super Saiyans or, the Frieza, the Cell Saga, the Buu
That's
saga.
in the Z?
That's in Z.
Okay.
Dragon Ball was the Piccolo, Piccolo, the green guy.
Piccolo. Oh, that was Dragon Ball?
So he was actually a bad guy in Dragon Ball before he became, just like Vegeta joined the good side after he was bad at first and stuff like that. So it's like the way that all these stories tend to, play out. It's like the bad guy joined your team. But yeah, the Dragon Ball was all him as a kid when he had a tail, and then Master Roshi and Krillin and all those were, that was a story of Bulma and all that kind of stuff.
Because Dragon Ball was where they were trying to get the balls to get the wish. 7
Dragon Balls. You summon a dragon, and then it grants you any wish.
7 balls or 12?
7.
7?
Yeah.
I thought
which is 12. A very I think the 7 comes from like something from the religious kind of texture. Yeah, it's something that's been documented. I forgot where I saw it, but the 7 is very significant for whatever reason.
Remember Cell? The super villain?
Mm-hmm.
Cell was in Z,
and
Majin Buu was in Z.
Yeah.
And which one is GT?
So GT is, like I said, it's by a different creator. I forget who created it. But I think that one
is that where they merged the people, like Goku and Vegeta.
No, that's still Z. So that's still, all the stuff you're talking about.
Dude,
well,
all right.
they do it in anything after Z too, just because once you learn something, then you have that power in future episodes too. Right? Yeah. But fusion is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And they do like a weird dance, right? They do the few.
They
join together. I mean, you see that even in like sports, today, like in soccer, soccer players will do the fusion because Dragon Ball is so popular that, especially in South America, I think Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball in South America, Western states just pioneered what anime is today.
I think Dragon Ball has what I would call it the scaling problem, right? Where you have a character that's strong, and then how do you naturally progress? Because if you are able to blow up a planet with Kamehameha or whatever, then you naturally need to create a stronger enemy. Well, in order to beat that, you need to be stronger. And so you introduce different things. But at some point, the scaling becomes broken because how do you evolve beyond that if you want to continue the series?
Well, not only that, think of the paradox. So
Yeah.
Say Goku, when he was in episode 1, met Majin Buu, which is like an episode 1000 bad guy. Imagine Majin Buu meeting him in episode 1. Dragon Ball wouldn't be Dragon Ball because Goku would have died right away because he was like nothing compared to what was
this is. Do you know the anime Seven Deadly Sins?
No.
So Seven Deadly Sins was something similar that they ran into, or let me actually backtrack. Do you know JoJo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know how there's JoJo, there's different arcs, right? You have
you have JoJo's from different eras, right?
Yeah, so you have I'm drawing a blank. I forgot what the very first arc is called. I think it's called The Phantom Blood.
Mm-hmm.
The second arc is called The Stardust Crusaders. The third arc is something with Moria, but in the first arc to the second arc, it changed drastically, right? So for those who don't know, in the first arc, you have the typical hero antagonist or protagonist antagonist series, and you could tell that they have the same, the antagonist becomes a vampire, the protagonist needs to defeat the vampire, go through that journey.
Yeah.
And of course, it's sort of like a power thing where like, this person has, a certain level of power, and that's how they defeat the enemy. But in the second arc was not Stardust Crusader. That was the third arc. The second arc was something similar to the first arc, but they were running into problems because they couldn't really figure out how to solve that scaling issue.
Yeah.
So in the third arc, they introduced something different. They introduced what they call the stand, where every individual have a stand, or just kind of like their spirit embodiment of particular abilities. So some people might have a stand that can fight other people's stands or do certain things that might be extraordinary abilities without spoiling it. Mm-hmm. And that solved that issue because the stand has different traits of weakness and strengths, and it can fight opponents in creative ways. So you no longer have that problem of, hey, this guy was super strong, and now all of a sudden a stronger enemy comes by. How do we fix it? Sure. So now you could come up with creative ways.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's not that the JoJo method is perfect, but at least you could it's easier for you to suspend your disbelief, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But the Dragon Ball, it's like, well, the last I've seen was like they're training with the gods or...
Well, you also have you can't die in Dragon Ball thing, right? Because of the...
You go to heaven or hell.
Well, you have the afterlife, and then, death in Dragon Ball just becomes meaningless because you just know that they're going to come back alive one way or another because that's the whole theme of Dragon Ball. You collect the Dragon Balls and you go wish. I mean, even after Toriyama Akira died, the meme was, okay, let's go collect the Dragon Balls to bring them back to life. So.
Oh, yeah. So if that's your number 3, what's your number
2?
That's your number 2.
Number 2 is Dragon Ball. Number 3, it's another old one. We were talking about Hunter x Hunter, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the one before that, Yu Yu Hakusho. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's a Ghost Hunter one.
Is that the wolf?
No, it's a Ghost Hunter one. So right now on Netflix, actually doing a live action adaptation of it, just like they did for One Piece. This is all Japanese actors, so it's different from the One Piece one, but it's not bad, done well. I think they're going to actually do the anime remake of it, maybe next year or 2 years from now.
Is it worth watching?
That one, if you like, so that one pioneered the tournament style of anime. So, like Dragon Ball or Naruto, like the Chunin exam that they did. So like any kind of tournament kind of stuff. Yu Yu Hakusho did like the best tournament arc, at least in my opinion, out there and that's what made it, that's what makes it my top 3 is just that whole tournament arc in that series.
Do you know Battle Royale?
I've seen the movie. I never watched or read the manga because I know it's based off of manga.
I think originally it was a light novel.
Okay.
Someone should fact check me. I think it was originally a light novel
too, right? They did a manga as well.
They did a manga, and then they did the film. The film wasn't as great. The manga was good, but the manga was more graphics, right? You have like rape scenes, you have violence, killings, right? Sure. And anyone who played Battle Royale, the video game, it's literally based off of Battle Royale, the manga. identical.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Battle Royale was also influenced by what's it called? Yu
Yu Yu Hakusho?
Yu Hakusho? Yeah.
Yu
I wonder
Yu
if that's the
Hakusho.
same or if it's different.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the tournament or that style became more prominent in other mangas after this one took off. And I think this one came out, I want to say late 80s, early 90s as well, before Hunter x Hunter. This is only 19 volumes, so it's a short one, but it's really worth the read if you haven't delved into it at all.
Have you seen the live action?
I've seen the first like 3 episodes of it. It's done well. I mean, it covers the manga to a point, but I mean, just like how you don't like live action adaptations, it is live action adaptation.
I should clarify. It's not that I won't watch live action. It's that when my expectations are here and then it's below that, that's when I have an issue.
Yeah. I mean, I tried watching the Attack on Titan live action. Oh my God. I could not get.
Okay. Attack on Titan. Did you like it?
I haven't finished yet. So, but
You didn't finish the manga?
I didn't finish the manga or the anime because the anime finished, right?
The manga finished. The anime, I believe last time I checked, they were still waiting on the last season or the last half of the season. Mm-hmm. I think they may be done now, but I really don't know.
Okay.
But people love Attack on Titan. They think, it's good. No. I personally never got into it. It's not that it was bad. I was one of the few people who read it before it got super popular. So I was reading it and then I was like, okay, then out of nowhere, like maybe 4 or 5 months later, or maybe a year later, it caught on like wildfire. Like, I don't know what made people love it so much, but it literally blew up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was kind of surprised because it's not that it was bad or the story wasn't good. It's like, it was okay.
So Attack on Titan is the one exception I have where I actually like the anime over the manga. Just because the manga, yes, it was, it had everything that the anime had, but, the animation was done so well in this, which is, it's not always the case. And the music.
The music was done well.
Yeah. And just the giants animated was just so freaky, watching it kind of thing. I actually enjoyed the anime. The only part where I disliked the series or stopped caring too much was the second arc of it, when they got off the mystery disappeared.
Oh, when they discovered the whole world.
Yeah. So what made that show good to me was the mystery aspect behind it. Like, why were they there? Like, where did they come from? Or, why is this happening to them? And then once that was solved, I'm like, okay, like it lost its magic a little bit for me.
Yeah, so but that's near the end stages.
It is, but then that's also a reason why I haven't finished it yet, is because that mystery to me was already answered. So I'm like, I'm just.
But aren't you curious to see the full ending? Like, of course. You're already there.
Yeah, I will eventually.
But you're not in a rush to finish it.
I'm not in a rush, and I can sort of see how it's going to go anyway. So, but I do want to confirm.
How do you think it will end?
I mean, should I be spoiling?
Well, because you don't know, right? You haven't read up, so I kind of know the idea.
Okay. Well, I know Eden, the main character. He is going on a revenge saga at this end of the series right now. Whether he's successful or not in succeeding in that, or whether he dies in on the process, I have a feeling it's not going to be a happy ending.
So you think it'll be a sad ending?
Yeah, it won't be an ending that I won't be satisfied with, however it's going to go.
Do you think that it should be going on a little bit longer, or it's ending at the right time?
Since they did this whole second arc of getting off the island, I feel like it shouldn't be as rushed as I think, because I know how many volumes there were left, kind of thing.
So you think it's rushed?
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah. But I also think the same way with Full Metal Alchemist. It was rushed towards the end too, even though I love
what would you like them to expand more on? Like, because I thought, without spoiling anything, I thought it was, not that it was perfect ending, but I thought they covered enough of the world and had enough of the lore information to answer majority of the questions.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I watched on it, so it's hard for me to recall exactly what my gripes with the series. I guess more expanding on other nations besides the island and the one country because there is the Asian nation as well where Mikasa came from. The rest of the world, I guess, in that aspect. But I mean, I'm sure it may end good where I'll love it. I just have this feeling that,
no comment.
Okay.
No comment. All right. So we got, what's your fourth one?
All right. So let's go Slam Dunk, Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho. And this one, we talked about it a little bit, Dragon Quest, the anime manga version. So it's completely different from the video game. It's not the same. Toriyama Akira did the video game, but he didn't do the manga.
Yeah.
But the world comes from the video game. And the reason why I like this one the most, they actually redid this anime recently. Mm-hmm. It's on Crunchyroll if anybody wants to watch the remake of this one, because this anime came out back in the 80s and it was competing against Dragon Ball at the time. And because Dragon Ball was so popular, they canceled the anime, I think after like the first 16 episodes or something. But this one, I like it because there's one particular character in the series that you hate in the very beginning. But his progression, his way of change throughout the series is
so it's like a natural character arc.
Yeah, like you hate him the most and you love him the most by the end of the series.
So in a manga,
and I just like the world of Dragon Quest, like the magic, the fighting, the heroes, the mages, the dark lords, and all that kind of stuff.
So do you look for a character progression, or do you prefer a wide world building, meaning that you want to see the world, you want to see the lore settings, the background, or do you not really care about that, where you just like to see, hey, how did this hero develop into a better person, or how did they devolve or whatnot?
I mean, it depends. I mean, definitely this one, I enjoyed the world building too, but more so than that, I enjoyed the one particular character in this one.
Yeah.
In this series the most. His name's Pop.
Because some people, they care more about character development.
Yeah.
Other people, they care like, hey, I want to see like the wide fantasy world that you're setting in. This is why certain books like Lord of the Rings are so in depth, right?
Yeah.
And I think One Piece does a good balance of it. You have enough understanding of the world, but at the same time, you see enough development of the characters from, we'll just take Zoro, right? Zoro he started off as kind of like, he's like, what do you call it? The second in command. But over the years, he becomes more devoted to the crew. Or even another example is Nami, right? Mm-hmm. Nami was just kind of there to take advantage, but later on she becomes, a strong part of the crew, or Usopp, and so on and so forth. And
Usopp is kind of like Pop. So you hated him in the beginning, right?
I didn't really dislike Usopp in the beginning.
A lot of people did though.
No, he's not well liked for sure.
Because he's a coward. He thinks for himself. He runs away. So copy and paste, right? A lot of animes take these things from other animes, and so I'm pretty sure that Usopp character is not a carbon copy, but based off of this.
Most likely not, but I mean, what ideas are truly original, right? I mean, very few ideas are truly original, and I don't necessarily find a copy and paste a bad idea, no. As long as it's refined in that artist's own unique way.
I mean, it's not as bad as Disney. I don't know if you've seen the Disney copy and paste where they literally have like animated what was it from the Jungle Book? There's like a dance scene from that they copy and pasted and put that into a different a movie, but it's the same motion, same.
I can say the same thing with a lot of anime studios as well.
Sure, yeah.
Have you ever seen Overlord?
Mm-mm.
So Overlord, I never watched, or sorry, I never read the light novel, but there is 3 seasons of it, and it's not necessarily that they copy and pasted their previous work or other people's work, but you can definitely tell that because it was so popular, they rushed to make the series. Yeah. You could tell that the graphics were bad. There's a scene where the main character, his name is Isengol or whatever. He's like a skeleton lord, and he's battling a human army. And so it's imagine a very large army battle, and he summons this black ball, and it comes down and it absorbs the humans, soldiers. And there's that particular scene. It looks very poorly done. It literally looks like CGI. They copy and pasted it. it's not. They were definitely on a time crunch, and I feel bad for whoever needed to work on it because they were like, "Hey, you need to hurry up." So they did what they can, right?
Right.
And so yeah, we can. I get what you're saying about the whole Disney thing, but I can also say the same thing with a lot about anime studios because now they outsource it to Chinese people.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I guess the difference I was trying to make was that the anime ones they will copy the concept or they'll copy the character.
I get it.
But they won't straight up, just copy the scene and then just put their image over it, which is what Disney was doing with, But it is their own material, so they can. It's just I just thought that was.
I mean, it's
funny.
I think one thing too, like with anime or manga, is we're starting to see. I don't want to say we're seeing a saturation because that's not the word I'm looking for, but we're definitely seeing a lot of
original ideas not being
kind of.
No, I agree.
It's one of those things where I want to say that there are people out there who want to bring unconventional ideas or controversial things, but they can't because they don't want the publishers, the big names, they don't want to rock their customer base too much. Or maybe it's a cultural thing. I have no clue. But all I can say is that lately, what I've seen, it's not original, right? Because what's really popular right now or what's been trending the last 1.5 years is it's where people get reincarnated into a new world. Okay. What's that term? There's a particular term for it.
Reincarnated into a different world, or
isekai or something. It's like the more popular one is I got reincarnated as a slime.
Sure.
Or there's another one is I got reincarnated as a dungeon spider.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
It's one of those genres that's very popular right now.
Is it because of the era that we're in? We're more in a multi-dimensional kind of thinking, or we are accepting that.
I don't know what it is, but I just know that's what I've been seeing, and I kind of feel like they're only doing it because that's where the money is at right now. So it's that copy and paste of. It may not be the copy and paste of the mechanical scenes, but it's a copy and paste of ideas.
Yeah,
and so I understand this is nothing new. Everybody does it. You had the Dragon Ball Z era. Then you had the One Piece era. Now you have whatever era this is in. So I'm not criticizing it. I would like to see more new, wide range of ideas and things.
Yeah.
But
you gotta admit though, like the best storytelling is still in like manga and anime. Like I have become like the most emotional I've ever been is like take One Piece, for example. I have never cried or became sad over an inanimate object until I read One Piece. And
which scene?
You probably know the scene I'm talking about. Have you ever cried over a boat before?
Boat?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I think, not that scene wasn't sad because it was sad, but I found Nico Robin's background story sad.
Sure. Well, I mean, One Piece, you cry a lot, or you get emotional a lot. And a lot of mangas too. I get emotional a lot reading it.
Yeah.
I don't get so much, watching movies or dramas or, TV
What is
series.
it about the boat? What was his name? Sunny?
Yeah, Sunny, I think.
Sunny?
Yeah. I mean, it's just the fact that,
they went through the adventure
and then
and then Sunny came
died
at the end to save them.
Yeah.
No, and Sunny was part of the crew.
Yeah.
I think if I had to my saddest scenes in One Piece it's a toss up between Nami or Robin. Because, Usopp is whatever. Zoro is sad too. Zoro wasn't sad actually. Brook didn't hit me as much. Chopper was pretty sad. Frankie, not so much.
Yeah. But I mean, you get the gist.
I get the gist of it. But to me, I was like, I feel like Nami and Nico Robin scene was sad. And the boat scene was, I'd say it's in the top 5.
Yeah. I mean, all my top 5 that I listed, there was one, well, maybe besides Yu Yu Hakusho.
Wait, what was your 5th one?
Full Metal Alchemist. I started off, I named that off so we didn't finish it, but Full Metal Alchemist is my number 5.
Really? One Piece is not up there?
I haven't finished One Piece. I'm
But up to what you read, you still wouldn't put it in your top 5?
My list only includes mangas that I finished.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's why I don't have Naruto or Bleach, even though they may not be my top 5 after completion, but that's why I'm not listing any of them. So these are the ones that I finished because I actually read and wanted to keep reading without stopping. One Piece, I took a little bit. It's a long series, right? So I had like.
What was the where you caught up in One Piece?
Without spoiling too much, so when they do a time jump is where I'm at. So like
you're
7 years later.
Okay, you're in the Wano arc still.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, no, that's still pretty caught up. That's like I would say you're 90% caught up because.
Really? That's like book like I want to say like 70, and aren't there like 100 and something volumes?
What do you remember? What chapter? Chapter.
I don't remember the chapter. I just know what volume I bought up to. Oh yeah.
Where's the 2-year gap? That's not one.
No, you're talking about
the death of
yeah. Where I know what you're talking about. You're in the Wano arc. Right?
That's a Paramount.
Okay.
So there's two. Okay. All right. Have you read? Do you remember the Candyland arc, or you didn't get that far?
Refresh me a little bit.
So Big Mom. It's a Big Mom arc.
So I don't remember names too much because there's just so many characters in the series, right?
It's the one where they're trying to rescue Sanji again. If you don't remember it, you didn't get that far.
Okay, I'm at the place where they go underwater, wherever that is.
Oh, you are way back. You are not. Okay, never mind. Okay.
So that's a time jump I'm talking about, where they go underwater right after that.
No. You are okay. I thought you were referring to a different.
So there's multiple time jumps in the series.
There's not that there's multiple.
How old can they get?
It's a little bit different. It's not necessarily because the scene that you're referring to is the 2-year skip, where they're training for 2 years, right?
So it's not 7 years?
That one's different.
Okay, so there's another one.
7 years. It was never 7 years. It was 2 years, I believe.
Okay.
But there's another one that's a little bit different. It's not that they travel. It's a little bit different. I don't want to spoil it, but you are literally pretty far back, actually.
Yeah.
Because if you were in the Wano arc, which there's the Paramount War, there's a time skip, there's the Fishman arc, there's the Candyland, then there's Wano.
Okay.
Wano.
So are you saying if I got past where I did, that this would be in my top 5, or?
No, you may not like it. Because your opinions might change, right? Because
I mean, I enjoyed up to where I was reading.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was very emotional. Like never cried as much as I did over
a boat.
So many characters in the series. I mean, every character in that series had a moment where you're like crying over. Zoro, Nami, Chopper, Usopp. Whatever.
But the boat got to you.
But the boat hit me the hardest.
The sunny got to you.
Because I mean, it literally broke apart, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, it was on flames. They had to let it go, right?
Oh, yeah. They decommissioned it.
They decommissioned it?
Or
what kind of tears? Was it a single tear?
I bawl a lot.
Are you bald?
Yeah. I'm a very emotional person. So,
really?
And that's why I like manga, because it brings me those kind of emotions. So even in TV series.
Are you an empath?
What?
Are you... those people who say like, oh, I'm an empath, meaning like they're super emotional. They feel the emotions of others.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're a close friend of mine, you start crying.
Then you start crying?
I'll absorb that emotion a little
really?
bit. Like if I see my dad crying over.
Then you'll start feeling the tears and you'll want to cry. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I am not that person. Sure. It's not that I'm.
Does that mean I'm empathetic, or?
I think the latest is just like if you're an empath, then you feel the energy or the emotions of others more. You're more sensitive to those than a normal person might be.
Yeah.
So let's say that we're sitting in a room and someone is crying and they're close to both of us. You might feel very strongly. Your heart might be like moving and you might want to cry too.
Yeah.
While I might just sit there and be like, oh, here's a tissue.
No, man. I tear up so easily that sometimes I'm like, we shouldn't watch this because I don't want you to see me.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not that person.
I know. I don't know why. It's just how it is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel sad. Like there are moments like, damn, like, oh, that gets to me. But I don't think I ever cried over a movie or.
But I'm
manga.
not like bawling out where I'm like.
No, I get it. It's like manly
but
tears.
yeah, it's like I can't help it when a tear like comes down my cheek.
It's a manly. It's a masculine tear.
I gotta do this, act like I'm like scratching my back or something. Get rid of it.
No, it's I mean, there are certain things that in manga where you're right, it hits you differently than a film does or when a book does. I think.
Well, you're more invested in it, right? Because you're reading it, from page to page.
I used to read a lot more when I was younger. So I used to read, like, have you ever watched Parasyte, the anime?
Not the anime.
You read it?
Oh, I thought Parasyte was a movie of the Korean one.
Oh, no, not the Korean film. So it's called Parasyte with a Y, actually. So
I may have read it. I think
it's actually an old manga that came out in 1990s, but they adapted it into an anime on Netflix or something. But it got super popular. But I remember watching it. It's like, oh, I remember reading about that years ago when I was in high school. It only took them 20 years, I guess.
Sure.
But
Parasyte, is it a controversial one? Is that why?
It's not as controversial. I think it's just money talks.
I mean, yeah, it took 20 years for anime to become what it is today. So all the ones back in the day that was just not popular.
Yeah.
Now they want to popularize it, I guess.
And so, I like Parasyte. I like, there was, what's this? Old Boy. So there's Old Boy, the Korean film, and there's Old Boy, the manga.
Okay.
The Korean film was better.
Sure.
So they were inspired by the manga, but the Old Boy manga was a little bit, relatively speaking, it was more tame.
Yeah.
But Old Boy was good. Have you ever read Gantz or Gantz?
I haven't read it, but I know.
You know of it?
Yeah.
So that one was good too. I also enjoyed. There's a whole bunch. I'm trying to remember. There's an old one. It's not super popular. It's called The Sanctuary. Mm-hmm. I like any of Junjo Ito's work. I like all the weird stuff.
No, it seems like.
There's another one called The Drifting Classroom.
Okay. I mean, I'm curious about these now since I never read them, but if they're enough for you to bring
I think I don't want to spoil it, but then I guess if you had to categorize them, it would be on the horror genre. But I like horror films. Like, I'm the type of guy who would like watch a horror film before I go to sleep, and then I would fall asleep. Because it's the problem with that is it's like what you said. It's a carbon copy. Like, these films follow a typical format, so that's why it doesn't scare me because I know what to expect.
Yeah.
But one thing I like about manga horror is it's very. I think Asian horror, they don't follow the typical jump scare. They are more psychological. They make you unsettled. Yeah. And so whenever I read some of these works, it's like, oh, that's creepy or weird, but it doesn't scare me like the Western film because at least once it scares you, it goes away. Mm-hmm. But Japanese or Asian or whomever, it kind of stays
scare.
with you a little bit. Sure. It disturbs your psyche.
Yeah, I get it.
So I like that. I'm trying to remember if
the weirdest one I read was Dragonhead. I don't know if you read that one. That one
I remember. It's where they're trapped underneath the subway.
It starts off with like a school class trip. I guess they're on their way back from a class trip, and
what was it like? Was it an apocalyptic setting? Something happened to the world.
Yeah, so it's another one where it's like Attack on Titan, right? It starts off where you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So that mystery aspect of what's going on is what made the series good for me. As soon as I found out what was going on, then it kind of lost its facade. But it starts off with they're in a class trip coming back on a bullet train, and they're going through a tunnel, and an earthquake happens, and they get trapped inside. And it starts off with them trapped inside the train trying to get out. Everybody's dead that died on, besides this one other weirdo. It's a guy and a girl and some weird guy. Like 3 people survive, and like the first book or 2 books is them trying to get out. Yeah. As soon as they get out, they think they're we got out of the train. We're saved now. But as soon as they get out of the tunnel, they find out that the world has come to an end. So now they have to figure out what to do, or how to move forward in this. So they're like figuring out. And it's like it just delved really, really weird. But I mean,
sounds about right.
But I mean that it's scarred me to the point of like, man, what if this kind of world happens, you know? So my psyche was definitely scarred a little bit, but it wasn't horror per se, where it's like jump scare, like you said, but yeah, it was definitely like man.
Well, it makes you think, right? And I think that's one of the things that they do well is they take an idea and they plant a seed and they make you think about it, versus a Western style is once you're scared and that scene happens, it's over. There's really not much to think about.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of these manga or animes or whatever, they make you think and they kind of make you like, not that you have to question it, but it makes you think.
They like to come full circle, if I have to put a thing. They like to like plant something in the beginning and you forget about that, right? Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the movie or end of the manga, they bring that thing back to connect it back to that original thing that seemed like innocuous at the time. But when they connect it back, it just makes that thing so much better.
Well, I think that's true, because one of the things that, and I think people who have never watched any of like Studio Ghibli's films, they should watch it, because it's really a great art. Mm-hmm. And
I mean, it was the Disney's of the Japan, right?
Yeah.
If you had to compare it to.
One, they don't dumb it down for you, right? And it's not that I want to say that people who watch Disney's are dumb, but there's a pattern, there's a formula. And Studio Ghibli's, you know, you can tell like he has certain political ideas, but if you watch certain things of it, whether it's The Howling Castle, Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro,
which one?
Princess Monosuke, I am tossed up between Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro. But if I only had to pick one, I would pick Spirited Away. I like the music. I like the animation. Even though it's a bit dated, I still think it's good because it was hand-drawn.
Yeah.
And I just like the overall message, right? And I know some people will interpret it different ways, but I always took it as not the loss of innocence, but it's just the road from childhood to adulthood. You know, she's a kid, she gets thrown into work, she finds love.
Yeah. I mean, all of his movies have a good message behind it. Kind of thing.
It does. And
coming to age kind of message.
Yeah, it really is a coming of age. And, you know, it's one of those films where I can watch it once or twice or even 3 times.
Oh, yeah, I can watch it
and
dozens of times.
I think the only film I didn't really care for was Princess Monosuke. Momonoke.
Yeah.
And that was okay. Kiki's was actually quite good.
Did you ever watch Castle in the Sky? That's my favorite.
like Castle in the Sky. That was good too. I enjoyed... Have you ever watched
Graves of the Firefly now?
I did.
Okay, that's
so someone wanted me to watch it because they said, "Oh, you're going to cry or be sad."
You didn't, huh? Wow.
I did not cry.
I cried.
See, I did not cry. It's not that it wasn't sad, because you're talking about the end where he comes back with. Okay.
I mean, you can spoil, I guess. I mean, but this one, if people want to watch it, I want them to actually watch it.
Fair enough. But it's a sad scene.
It is, yeah.
And I think this is one of those films where it really showcases like the horrors of war.
Yeah.
And so
it takes place during World War II. I'll say that part. So
yeah. And so it's one of those things where like, hey, you know, it really does kind of course, you know, Japan did some bad things, but every country did some bad things. But this really showcases like, we should not forget, right? It should not be brushed away.
Yeah. I mean, the victims of war is, you know, what highlighted this movie more so than like the people that were perpetrating the war.
Exactly.
The victims of it. So.
And so to me, it's like, yeah, that film was sad. I mean, it's not that I didn't cry
it because I was watching Studio Ghibli. I'm like, how it's a Studio Ghibli? Like, why it can't be bad? And then I like bawling.
It got you,
of course.
There was another one too. I forgot. He also did. Or was that all of his films?
He's done. I mean, it's not all of them, but it's a good amount. I mean, there's a. I forget what it's called, but some summer vacation kind of movie too. I forget what that one's called. It's not as widely known, but
I like My Neighbor Totoro. I mean,
that's the classic. That's what everybody, or that's his most famous work, right? That's what his logo is.
There's a conspiracy theory on that too. I don't know if you heard of it.
Tell me.
I mean, the spoilers is that I believe, if I remember correctly, is
dead or something the whole time.
Yeah, someone was dead the whole time.
Because is it the younger sister goes missing, right? And,
Something like that. Like it was circulating for a while, and I think the actual studio or the maker or whomever, they actually came out and said, like, guys, calm down. She was alive. Like, let's not.
Well, then why'd you put that in the show to make?
Because they were like saying like, oh, well, her shadows were missing, right? And they're like, dude, we're doing this by hand. Like, of course we make mistakes. You know, like, come on.
Not Studio Ghibli.
You know, and it's like, it was an interesting theory.
They should have just went with it. So yeah, you guys are right. You guys found it.
I don't know. But I feel like that wasn't a message they wanted to send. But like, I really like, what was his name? Joe Hisaibe? Do you remember the guy who did all the music for Studios Ghibli's films?
Mm-mm.
He's a super popular guy.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Joe, I'm going to look it up. Yeah. But all of his music, man, I like it.
Joe Hisaishi?
You know him. Like, if you listen to the classic one, like One Summer Night or any of his films, you'll recognize his like style right away.
Yeah. No, yeah, it looks like he's the person.
He has a YouTube channel too.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to that guy, whatever his YouTube channel is. But
73 years old.
Nah, he's a dude. When Japanese people work, they work.
Oh, yeah. You work till die. I mean, I'm not saying Toriyama Akira, passed away from overwork or anything, but a lot of that's the hardships of in Japan. Once you decide to take that route, like I said, you have that constant pressure from weekly, the publishers, demanding your work to the point where a lot of people, it's like, you don't want to go into that work unless you're very passionate about it, because you're going to.
I wonder if we're coming to the point where, I don't want to say it's becoming unappreciated, but do you think now that everything is becoming AI, will hand-drawn does anybody do hand-drawn? Or is it all done on computers now?
I mean, there are probably still some aspects of hand drawing, but I'm sure a lot of help is coming from the AI or CGI, the automated. Because I mean, who wants to do more work when less can be done?
I'm pretty sure you can't tell the difference, but you can't help but feel like something is lost along the way.
No, yeah.
Like I wouldn't know how to quantify it or put it into words, but it's you kind of lose a little bit of something.
Yeah.
And so when all these new studios come out, and will people embrace the new AI method of doing it, or will they kind of want to stick with their old way because it's the better way? Because I can see Comics jumping onto it and say, look, we need to produce more content. We need to lower our costs. We need to do everything better because that's the corporate way. And that's like, well, but will that become a better satisfaction for the readers and the viewers, or will we become so used to it we can't even tell the difference?
Right. I mean, I guess when you go that route, you get more product faster, right? So if readers want to read things quicker, and this satisfies them, you never know, that might take off. But I'm more in your vein where I want the originality. I want the
like the human touch,
or like the artistic element there, because when it becomes AI, then that even though it may look good, it's not done by anybody but a compilation of old work kind of stuff. So
it's also, I wonder if we're not going to see, I wonder if ideas would become more diluted over time. Like,
I mean, there's definitely ideas that are being diluted, not that many original ideas anymore. So,
because didn't that one guy, he locked the studio and burned it down because they thought he was stealing his ideas?
Yes.
What was his name?
I forget the perpetrator, but he's been found guilty recently.
Because he killed like what, 7 or 8 people?
He killed, I mean, I don't know how many people he killed, but yeah, he, if I remember correctly, he thought that the studio stole his,
ideas.
It wasn't even that much of an original idea. I think it was just like a scene on a train or something where like somebody was talking, and he thought that because I guess what happened was he tried to submit his work to the studio, and they said no, like this, we're not gonna take this. But then, like, I guess a few years later, they released something that had like a similar scene or something that he thought that it was his work. So
I see.
So he decided to lock up, or he went to the studio one day, locked all the doors or the exits,
And he put a gasoline can,
and burned people alive. I don't know how many people he burned, but it's very
yeah.
So you have not only you're overworked, you have people that will come in and do those sabotage your
like. I wonder if everyone's always on that breaking point of killing someone and not killing someone.
In what?
In that kind of industry, like in Japan. Is everyone so high stressed out, or is it just an anomaly?
Yeah,
I wonder.
I don't know about killing or not killing, but I'm sure suicide is a thing that people consider a lot, or
Yeah.
not just the artist, but like his workers and stuff. That because it's not just the main artist that's overworking himself. It's all his sub workers that doing his touching up his work, and making sure that everything.
But I thought they outsourced it all now, or do they still do the original panels themselves?
That I don't know too much, but I mean I know when they weren't outsourcing it, that was a big issue because like they had to meet their weekly demands.
Huh. Because I really don't know too much about how they develop and publish it. Like, I think if I had to guess, they would get like the original storyboard, they would draw it in, their assistants will help color, line it, and then they would send that original manuscript into whomever. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if that's even done it that way, or if everything's done on iPad and tablet where they draw it out with the pen.
I mean, with technology, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you would assume that's the new way of doing it, but
You would assume that, right?
I would assume, but who knows? If we're originalists and want the original work, we don't want that. So,
because I would feel like the tablet would seem to be in a more efficient way, because if you make a mistake, you could just Control Z.
why not? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that would seem to be the original way, unless.
But then what's stopping from AI taking over at this point? So maybe we have been watching AI anime for the last 5 years without realizing.
Maybe. I mean,
and if it is, then fine.
I'm
fine with it.
I can't help but feel that maybe if in the future it's different, but AI animation just looks bad. Like Berserk tried to do the CGI. Once again, it's not the same comparison because it wasn't AI, it was actual CGI. But
The movie
Berserk
ones
tried to
you're
do it. Yeah, it looked terrible.
Yeah.
Berserk looked weird. Kengen Ashura looked kind of weird.
It gives a 3D effect, right? It's not the 2D anime. It kind of gives that video game-ish 3D look.
Yeah, it looks blocky, or it just looks off. Like it doesn't look like Mappa Studio has been killing it, right? Because they've done Chainsaw Man. Did they do Chainsaw Man? I think they did Chainsaw Man.
They did One Punch the first season.
And then did they?
I don't know, but that studio I thought did a really well job animating.
Well, they also done Demon Slayer animation is sick. Mm-hmm. Like the fight. I can't even remember any of the name, but Rengoku or whatever, the Flame Hashira, he fought the demon in the Mugen train arc. Then there is the other Hashira, the music guy who fought the twin demons in the entertainment district, I want to say.
Okay.
And it's just like, damn, they put money in that because it looks clean. It looks very animated. Like it's very hyped up. Like if you've never seen it, you should watch it. Like at least the fight scenes, you'll find like 2 or 3 minute clips anywhere, but it's very, very pristine.
Yeah.
Like I liked it.
Yeah. Well, I'll watch it before, all the anime changes to all AI. So
I don't know if they'll change it because you see now too where it's becoming so popular that Universal Studios Japan have a Demon Slayer land or Demon Slayer section where they do that. I don't know about America. I don't think so, but they do it in Japan specifically.
I just want to talk about anime and how it, how it impacted my life, I guess, as growing up. Because as watching anime, it was a very, I don't know. I mean, it shaped who I am today to the point. I mean,
certainly for me too, because, anime and manga, it's really just another medium for exchanging ideas or sending a message, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's you can always learn something from someone, no matter how small or how big it is. Like, there's always something you can learn from.
Yeah.
And so, thoughts and prayers and all that to that guy and his family.
Yeah.
But
no, I thank you very much for creating Dragon Ball. Yeah. And I'm sure he's in the afterlife with King Kai, enjoying the Dragon Road, and
well, you just have to find 7 Dragon Balls and you'll be good to go.
All right. Well,
So hopefully whoever is inspired to take on, I would also end this to say, like, we should always look to inspiration to create things.
Yeah.
So we should take we should look after these people and be like, hey, you know what? We should look up to them, be inspired by them, and go out and create things, even though you may not be very creative yourself. Just do it, and you may take off. So whoever wants to do something, just go ahead, pull the trigger. Don't be afraid. Who cares if someone criticized you or say that it doesn't look good? They didn't start off right on the first time. So go out and do things.
Yeah. And he will live forever through his work, so he won't be forgotten. Thank you very much, Toriyama Akira Sensei.